Welcome to episode 5 of Multifamily Investing with Bob Biggins. I am Bob Biggins, and I'm in the office of the largest ERA broker in the state of Michigan, Mr. Rick Reardon. He actually happens to be my broker as well. Welcome, Rick.
How you doing, Bob?
Very
Glad to be
good,
here on
very
your
good.
5th episode.
Yeah. Nice sunny day here in St. Joseph, Michigan. Let's just start out by give me a little background. Give me your story. What brought you to this level of success in your brokerages?
Well, I'm going to say my parents were in real estate. They got into real estate when I was 13 years old, so I was kind of raised in the business. Actually started buying property at 15. Bought a piece of land and bought it on land contract, which was interesting because then I played with amortization and really understood how interest rates worked and how, wow, why am I paying so much interest? And, when I get to this point, I'm paying more in principal. And so that was interesting as a 15, 16-year-old kid. Didn't end up going into real estate as my first career. Went to college, got done with college. My dad said, "Do you want to get into real estate?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't think so, not at this point." Year later, I worked retail management, and then I said, "Wait, maybe this real estate thing would be a good gig." So that was in 1990, and then I got licensed in 91, so 34 years ago, and got into it, enjoyed it, and then in 2000, I took the business over from my parents, and really small company at the time, 5 or 6 agents, did a volume of about 7 or 8 million in total volume of sales. And that's when I bought the ERA franchise in 2000. Because even back then I was like, wow, this technology thing is moving quick. Whereas now I would like to go backwards to those days when it was really moving slow compared to today. But I saw that you needed the backing of a large franchise at that time to have the technology and the tools to be able to move forward. And so long story short, I bought into the franchise in 2000, started growing the business, but I wasn't really using the tools. And about 5 years later, I realized the only way to really build that business is to use the tools. And that's what I started doing. And by doing that, I was able to then start bringing agents in and start really growing the company. And then from there, in the downturn, which a lot of people are worried about downturns and recessions and things like that, that honestly can be a good time in real estate. There's not necessarily a good time in real estate or a bad time. They're all times to make a living if you're doing it in the correct way. And so in 2009, when the market was in a really bad position, I was able to buy out 2 other companies. And that's where I started growing. And from that point on is where I've done mergers and acquisitions and have bought 7 or 8 more companies since that point. So that's the long and short of how I got from where I was to where I am. And again, went from 5 or 6 agents to now about 150 agents, 10 offices, and over 300 million in sales.
Wow.
So
We've answered a few of my questions. 300 million in sales.
Yeah.
Wow. Big jump from 6
Right.
or 7.
Oh yeah.
6 or 7 was something back then.
Well,
And now a house could be $1 million or $500,000 pretty commonly. Yeah. And then you have 10 offices. Where are they located?
Furthest east would be in Manchester, which is in Washtenaw County. Okay. And then Jackson County, which was my original place, and that's where I grew up. I've got 3 offices there. Okay. Another one in Portage, Kalamazoo Market, St. Joe. Mm-hmm. Then we have Grand Rapids, Grand Haven, and Big Rapids.
Wow, that's awesome.
So we
awesome.
cover the whole west side of the state is really our main marketplace.
Great. Now, being in ERA since, you said, what, 2002?
No, 2000. So 25 years.
2000. Wow. Have you had awards, or how have you scaled ERA wise, we know how you are in Michigan, but how about
Right.
corporate wise and nationally, really?
Right. Well, so nationally, there's we are now the number in units, the number 15 company in the United States.
Wow.
Is the number of units.
Great.
And I believe we finished about 27 or 28 last year in volume. But with that, it was, I mean, I'll take it back to, you asked about awards also. And so going back to using the products and services and the tools, because a lot of companies have them, they just don't use them. Mm-hmm. And my focus has always been since 2005 or 2006 is I need to hire staff that work for me, that work for my agents to help them use these tools. Because it's great to have this great toolbox, but if you don't know how to use them, it's no different than a builder. You can have all this stuff, but if you don't know how to build it, it's not going to work. And so I came to that conclusion, like I said, in 2005, 2006. My agents don't have the time to go out and learn how to use all these tools. Mm-hmm. So I hired people to use the tools for them so that they could go out and do what they need to do, which is go, face to face, belly to belly with buyers and sellers. And that's what helped us grow to where we are, because we use those tools. And by using those tools, I was able to, couple things. One, there's two different awards that are the big awards in ERA franchise. One is the Jim Jackson Award, which is total overall in service, the number one in service. And then Gene Francis, and those were the two founders of ERA.
Oh, okay.
So the Gene Francis is the total all over for service, volume, just community involvement. That's the big one, the Gene Francis Award. So we won the Jim Jackson Award, which was number one in service in, I think, 2014. And then in 2015, we won the Gene Francis Award, which was, and we were still a pretty small company at that time. And so it was kind of cool to win as a smaller company. I was able to give a speech at the event and whatnot, and a lot of people afterwards came up and said, wow, how did you do this? Because I wasn't that number 1, number 5, number 10 company. At that time, I was probably the number 30, number 35 company, and had grown to that. So it was kind of cool to be inspirational in some ways to some of those other brokers who were pretty small brokers that since then have now used mergers and acquisitions, recruiting tools, using those tools to grow their business, have now come back to me and said, wow, you know what? We're up for that award now, or we've grown the business. So,
and that's from going to many ERA conferences with you. I know that a lot of these companies you're competing against, Orange County, California, Miami-Dade County, Florida. I mean, the big New York one there, Schenectady, New York. I mean, these are $10 million homes, $5 million homes, and Michigan, just a spunky bunch. You're competing with them quite well.
Yeah.
And I will attest to when you talked about the technology, you do invest well, because we're a small office by comparison. But Rick you always have the staff here. You always have people to help us. Somebody managing the desk all the time. If we have problems with tools, we can call your corporate office. We have a problem with underwriting or with title. We've got somebody to call Jackson. I mean, you're very, very helpful. I mean, I can attest to that.
Only way you can be successful is if we help you get to that point, and that's the only way we can be successful. So working together, my staff has always known that our client is the agent. And obviously the secondary client is the buyer and seller, but our number one client is our agents, because we need to help them grow their business. So,
since this is a multifamily channel, tell me about your commercial division, because I know you have a nice, good-sized commercial division, and how those transactions have been going in these unprecedented times of rates and tariffs and everything else going on. It's never a good time, but it's always a good time.
Exactly. With that, again, if like I said, I've grown through mergers and acquisitions, and so I bought out the number one commercial brokerage in the Jackson market a couple years ago. So we got some great knowledge and minds within that. And
now, was that an ERA brokerage?
It was not. Nope.
Okay,
it was
you
an
made
independent.
the ERA.
It was an independent company, and I brought
okay.
them in. And one of my main reasons is I was worried that the brokers were getting older and they would just go away and would lose their knowledge. And so, yes, I wanted to bring them into the company to grow the company, but I also wanted their knowledge. And so that's what we're working through right now is them helping transfer some of that knowledge to agents and to be able to share it. Because I think the knowledge is probably even more valuable than the sales themselves. And so, but asking how it's going, I would say the rates are not as scary to people in the commercial multifamily line of business because the age of those buyers and sellers they're used to these rates are normal rates. Right. We have in the residential market, we have a large group of buyers who have never seen anything above 2.5 or 3. Yeah. So this 6.5, 7.5,
really not bad.
Not bad. If you look, over the last 3 or 4 decades, it's pretty normal. But with that being said, normal to you and I in our 50s is different than someone in their 20s or 30s that are like, what?
Right.
I heard 2.5. What's this 6.5? That's crazy, or 7.5. So with that being said, the commercial market's different. You've got an older buyer and seller typically, so the interest rate is not that big a deal. They're also looking at their ROI, their return on investment. They're not looking, if they can still make money on this multi-unit property or they can make money on this commercial deal, they don't care as much what the rate is. It's what their profit is.
Right.
So the rate, I don't think, has been that big of an effect on it. We've seen a lot of pretty big commercial deals already go together this year, like in the restaurant industry and some others like that had been kind of slow. So I see a lot of people that are pretty positive on where the economy's going, even with everything in the news, and you don't know if this is true, that's true, what's really going on. But I'll tell you, from the commercial side of it, people are pretty positive, upbeat. They're pretty, it's bullish on the market. They really are. I mean, I see people seeing that the things are going in the right direction.
Yeah, probably things might have slowed down for 2 or 3 years. They went crazy during COVID and then slowed down very quickly with the higher rates. But now come down a little bit, normalize, and I don't see a lot of change going on there, most likely.
No, in real estate, it's always a good market. It's just how you deal with it.
Certainly. Question is, what's your secret sauce and what have you done better than other ERA franchises to grow? But you kind of touched on that in that you really just empower your agents by providing them with knowledge based from your clerical staff or your technical staff.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to say that the secret sauce is culture and team and, like you just said, empowering the agents to do what they do best, which is
boots on the ground,
talking with their
banging
clients
doors,
and
whatever.
Being out there in the public. You're better off at the grocery store or whatever, talking with someone than sitting on your computer doing social media or doing that's what my staff is for. That's why I've built the business on the fact that my agents are my clients. I'll just step back a little bit. Like when I bought the business from my dad, he's deceased now, but when I bought the business from him in 2000, I would tell him that my client was my agent, and he's like, no, your client's the buyer and seller. And I'm like, no, Dad, my client is my agent. And so he and I would bump heads on that a little bit because his philosophy was different than mine. His agent or his client had always been a buyer and seller, which, yes, secondarily, that is also my client. But first and foremost, as the broker and owner of the company, my agent is my client. So every staff person I've ever hired knows that my agent is their client. You better take care of them. I know they're going to call you Friday night at 9 o'clock and you're out doing something else. And maybe you don't answer, but whatever that is, you better get back with them because an agent issue may seem not important to us, but to them it's in a lot of cases, it's life or death. And it's, are we going to keep that client, which is a secondary client, the buyer or seller, satisfied? And so we have to keep our client, the agent, satisfied so they can keep their client satisfied. So I would, if you want a secret sauce, I would say it's teamwork, it's culture, it's putting our agents first.
And the culture in this company is very good, very upbeat, very non-blaming, non-judgmental. Even if there's a problem, let's get the problem solved. Let's get it done. And when it comes to multifamily, we run our own property management business, and same thing. 9 o'clock there's a problem. 10 o'clock there's a problem. I always shudder when it's below zero for a week. What's going to freeze? What's going to be the problem? I'm on pins and needles all the time, because if and when that call comes, you got to be on the spot, because that client either doesn't have water, or they have no heat, or they have no whatever it is. That's my client,
right?
In the multifamily industry, and trying to grow that business and teach my viewers just how this stuff has been done, what mistakes I've made, and we've all made. Don't do those. When we started, there was no YouTube. We school of hard knocks.
Right.
And so it was hard. It was really hard. And I want to try to prevent up-and-comers from making the same, I look back and the dumb mistakes made, try to prevent those type of things from happening.
Yeah.
Give me a little more specifics about your subcontracted personnel in Jackson, and how that's shortened the growth curve. Because I know you have people right from other companies embedded into your Jackson offices. We're a smaller office, so we don't have that, but we have access to them in St. Joe.
Yeah. And are you talking like Heidi, Chief Operating Officer and that type of thing? Or are you talking title and mortgage and insurance and all of that?
Sure.
So to start, I mean, we have an amazing staff from top to bottom that are there to help.
Very good, very helpful, good people.
That's their whole thing. But we also have expanded from there, where we have a title company within the office. We have a mortgage company within the office. We have an insurance company within the office. So we have those relationships to help our agents be able to kind of be a one-stop shop. And with that, the agents here can use all of those services also.
Something that's really great, as you talk about, I met those people through, you have those different award ceremonies, CEU classes. Like I used to have to pay for CEU classes. I just come to Jackson now, to a country club, get a great lunch, maybe even have a pop or a beer, and on Rick, and we get our CEU credits every year. It's fun, it's educational, and you get to meet all these people, and so you get to forge relationships that when it's 9 o'clock at night and you're trying to close on Monday morning from Friday, and you got to get this figured out, you've got somebody to call. How do we do this? How do we step through this? So the relationships are good if you utilize all the services that you have there in Jackson, because you're the biggest broker in all of Jackson, period, aren't you?
We have been for about the last decade, maybe a little longer.
And Jackson MSA is probably what, 150,000 people?
About 150,000. And we do, in that market, we do about 50% of our total volume. And so small market, small prices, average price about $225,000.
Wow, a lot of volume then.
But we do a lot of volume.
Yeah. A lot of property.
And you touched on it, but we do try to have fun, whether it's a golf outing, whether it's an event at the country club, whatever. You've got to bring people together. And some people can't make it to weekly meetings, and some people can't do other things. So we do try to bring people together so they know each other. If they have questions, concerns, they know other people to call. So it's always nice to do that.
You and your staff, you bring a staff here every month or so, every 2 weeks or every month from Jackson all the way to St. Joe, an hour and a half, 2 hours away. We have a good meeting, sit down, go get a bite to eat, and kick issues around. So it's very nice. Therefore, you're my first podcast interview.
That's right.
Yeah. Can you talk to me about a particularly difficult multifamily deal and how you worked through it, overcame any of these barriers? Or it could be a duplex, it could be a 50 unit, something that was just a head scratcher.
I'm going to say in a lot of cases they're all like that, and the reason I say that is because everyone is so individual. You know what I mean? And like you said, whether it's a 2-unit or a 30-unit, it's going to have different obstacles. And the nice thing is to have the resources to be able to get through those issues.
Yes.
So whether it's an appraisal issue, whether it's a financing issue, construction, we just have the resources to be able to help that agent get through that problem. In a lot of cases, they don't have that knowledge to be able to go to maybe the commercial broker that I have in the company now to be able to say, oh man, what do we do in this situation? Or what about this? We have the knowledge to be able to figure out, okay, in this situation, we can do this. And then we can help that agent get through that problem. Same thing with whether it's, I know we're talking multifamily more, but whether it's a party store or a bar restaurant or whatever, you then have liquor licenses, you have lottery licenses, you have all these things. So it's nice to have the knowledge of people who can help us through those tasks. Each agent doesn't have to know necessarily how to get to that point, but as long as they can bring a buyer and seller together, we can help them get to the finish line.
Well, I've come to the end of my questions, Rick.
Okay.
I thank you for your time, generous time with me here, and we should be live in a couple of days, and share this with all your Jackson agents and all your other agents, and everyone out there. Like and subscribe to the Multifamily Investing with Bob Biggins, and thank you, and
that's it.
Have a good day. Take care.
Thanks, Bob.